I'm not going to waste time because I'm going to try to cram in my usual lesson in a shorter amount of time. Um, and I want to get through all the good stuff. So this is my favorite lesson. This is my very favorite lesson. And it's not because it's like my best lesson. It's a good one. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good one. But it's my favorite lesson because it's the first lesson that I ever made as a film teacher. And it predates freestyle. Many, many years ago, I was teaching, before I taught at freestyle, I taught at a private school, and I was teaching an art class, an art and visual literacy class. And they were very clear about it when they hired me. They did not want me to spend time working with these elementary age students making arts and crafts. They wanted like a real art class, like an art and visual literacy was the name of the class. And so after teaching there for a little while, I got to be on pretty good terms with the principal of that particular school. And we were doing all the basic art things that you would expect an art teacher in an art class to do. And after a while, I felt pretty comfortable with the teacher. So I kind of started to pick her brain a little bit, the principal. So I started to pick her brain a little bit. And I said, so, how do you feel about like animation? How do you feel about art or art animation as art? How do you feel about film as art? Because those are art forms, right? Like there's a lot of visual literacy in those particular mediums. Like I'm thinking I might want to teach something like that to my elementary students. And the principal was like, yeah, that'd be all right. I think, like I don't have a problem with that. And I was like, okay, I was kind of testing the waters a little bit. So I made this really cool lesson about animation and art and all this kind of stuff. And it was really cool because when I taught it, like on the second to last day of school, I saved it until the very end. The principal happened to be in my classroom at the time, and she was like working on something, and she stopped and she kind of looked over and she's like, that's really interesting. I'm really glad I was here for that. And I was like, yes, success, film wins again. But even before that, I was teaching art principles, and this all stems from an experience that I had previous to that. So I was teaching in this little art class, and this was even before I made my film lesson. I was teaching this art class. So we're going to start today's lesson with a little art lesson because that's how this all came to be. So I was super excited when I finally came to teach at Freestyle. I had no idea what I was going to teach. And I still remember getting a very Mr. Flow email like the night before my very first day when he, like, in typical Mr. Flow fashion, sent me this email and was like, so what are you going to do for that 2.5 hour class? And I was like, well, I got this one lesson. So at least I knew that if anything went wrong, I could fall back on this one lesson. And it's my first lesson, and it's my favorite lesson because it's near and dear to my heart for that particular reason. So that's what we're doing today. Today, we will be looking at film mode, secret messages in art, what I call secret messages in art, because you're trying to grab the interest of young elementary school age students when I put together this lesson. So it was secret messages in art, which sounds pretty cool, right? I mean, who doesn't want to learn about secret messages in art? So that's what we'll be discussing today as we really get into deep analysis and deep cinematography, advanced cinematography techniques of film. So I mentioned that I was teaching as an art teacher when this all came to be. And it all kind of came from this one experience. I was teaching color theory to my young elementary school students, fourth graders, fifth graders, and sixth graders. I was teaching color theory. And I got into class that morning before class, and I was like, hey, I really want to teach color theory. How am I going to teach color theory? So I started looking around in the classroom for various paintings and arts and things like that that had a lot of bright color. So I found this one by a guy named Marc Chagall. And I was like, oh, this is great. It's got complementary colors. It's got blue and orange. Perfect. That's all I needed. I was like, blue and orange. So I'll just pull out this painting and we'll talk about color theory, and we'll talk about why this is an effective painting and why, like you can use examples like this with color in your art, like this will be a good example. And a funny, interesting thing happened when I presented this to the students. So I pulled out this painting And we started looking at it. We talked about the colors, and we talked about the orange, and we talked about the blue and all that kind of stuff. And then we started getting into the meaning of the painting, which was not my intent at the particular time. But a student, chimed in and was like, well, what does it mean? Like, I don't understand what's going on in this painting. And as a good art teacher, I decided to take advantage of that opportunity to discuss the symbolic meaning of this particular Marc Chagall painting. I should add, this was the first time I had ever seen this Marc Chagall painting. I had no idea what this painting was. I didn't know who Marc Chagall was. It was just a painting that I picked out of a pile in a classroom that was not mine because it was colorful and I was going to teach art theory. But then we started looking closely at this painting. This is now my favorite painting. I love this painting because of this experience. And I want you to look closely at this painting. You guys have the benefit of shared screens, so you don't have to look at my projector screen in the classroom. You actually get to look up close at this painting. So take a look at this painting and just tell me what you see.
He's got a candle.
Candle, okay?
Violin.
Violins.
Violin.
Violin.
Chicken, I think.
Sorry?
Or a rooster. A chicken or a rooster at the top.
There is indeed a chicken. Very good.
There's a lot of red at the top of the tree, just like
Okay.
a flag.
Okay.
Bride
Okay.
and a groom.
Sorry, Nate, can you speak up?
A bride.
A bride. Okay.
But she's also a ghost.
Ooh, okay.
A painter.
A painter. That's interesting.
Oh, the guy
What
at the
makes-
bottom, he's got a palette.
He's got a
Yeah.
palette. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Is there a painting also at the edge? It looks like a painting.
Oh, like an easel there, like a canvas on
Yeah.
the left hand side there. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. What can we infer from this painting by looking at this painting and by making the discoveries that you are making? What does this painting mean? Now that we've looked at it, we've made some observations. What does this painting mean?
The guy's married to art.
The guy is married to his art. Well, that's a nice thought.
Or he wants to burn it down. I have no idea.
Or he wants to burn it down.
And he's holding the candle real close to the canvas. Right
Okay.
there.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying. Okay. Other thoughts?
He's painting in a dream.
Painting in a dream. Why do you think it's a dream?
Because it just seems really abstract that there's like a person getting married in a tree and then there's a random chicken and a person playing the violin. And it looks like the painter's flying, so it just seems really dreamlike.
Okay. Let's see. Who haven't we heard from? Zazzy, what do you think?
It's kind of like, well, it looks like a wedding dress almost, but it's very like dark and dismal looking.
Like which aspect? When you say dark and dismal, like what's dark and dismal?
Well, it's kind of like a blue background. We see that like it kind of reminds me of that Tim Burton movie, with the bride. I totally forgot.
Yeah, yeah, the Corpse Bride one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think that's a good observation. Let's see, who else? Layla, what do you think?
I mean, there's a lot of different things like going on, so maybe it means there are a lot of different aspects to a picture. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. There is a lot going on. I mean, we haven't even talked about everything in this painting. I mean, we've got we mentioned the chicken, of course, and the violinist like weird thing over there, but there's also like a kind of like a village there in the background. What time of day is this?
Night.
Night. Night. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think there's a lot of debate about that. I think it's nighttime.
But they're
Okay.
they're
Sorry,
getting
go ahead.
married. They're getting married in the middle of the night.
They're getting
think I've-
married in the middle of the night.
Unless that's not it's not a wedding. Maybe that's like what's it called? Like, so I know that when the husband dies, the wife becomes a widow. But what happens if it's like the other way around?
A widower.
Yeah.
So what do you mean?
Well, like what happens when the woman dies? What's the guy now?
Yeah, it's a widower.
Oh, so he's a widower.
Who's a widower?
The man, and he's like dancing with his dead wife.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You kind of have this this like ghostly trail here.
And he's enjoying it so much he started floating with her.
Well, how about the colors here? What colors do you see?
Blue. Does
Yeah,
she
I mean,
represent the night?
Well, she's very blue, which is we often associate with coldness, right? And then he's very warm, right? At a very like warm color temperature. So I think, and you guys have all mentioned sort of this ghostly trail. You know, Zazie says it reminds her of Corpse Bride. So I think those are good observations. Those are good observations. And that was similar to what my elementary school students discovered. So congratulations, you are now as smart as a fourth grader. So my fourth graders and fifth graders and sixth graders were kind of looking at this. Now, I will remind you that I had never looked at this painting before in my entire life, and I knew nothing about Marc Chagall. And we sat here and we looked at it, and finally, one student's like, "She's dead," you know, and we were like, "Yeah, she's dead." And we got all excited because we started to figure out a few more things. Do you notice how where's this trail come from?
His painting.
Someone besides Justin. What do you see?
Like
what do you see on this painting, Eileen?
The candles.
Well, yeah, he's holding his candles. But we established that he is a painter, right? Because he's got his palettes down here. You can't see it because my Google stupid slide thing is covering up. I wish there was a way to move that. If I leave the mouse steady for a second, hang on. You can see his palette. There it is. His palette and his paintbrush and everything. What is he painting?
Is he painting the dead bride?
He's painting the painting.
Holy crap, Emma. He's painting the painting. He's painting. Oh my gosh, this is so meta. Do you guys see what's going on here? Look. There's blue all around here.
Blue and the red.
And then we've got the orange and red kind of in the middle, right? And we have this ghostly trail coming from the painting. He is painting the painting. If he's painting the painting, who is this?
The widower.
The
Marc
husband.
Chagall.
It's Marc Chagall, guys.
Oh.
It's Marc
Marty
Chagall. Okay, so if this is Marc Chagall and he's painting this painting that we are now looking at right now, this is so meta, right? Right, okay, all right. So he's sitting there, he's painting this painting. What did we just learn about Marc Chagall? What
His
can we
wife died.
infer about Marc Chagall?
His wife died.
His wife died.
Oh.
He's up in the middle of the night painting.
That's so sad.
And what is he painting? He's painting memories of them together, of their wedding day. Is this a happy painting? Is this a sad painting? Well, it's both. Take a look at his face. If you look real closely, he's smiling, but there's also kind of some blue and some white in his eyes. There's a little bit of tears in his eyes, or what I like to think are kind of tears in his eyes. It's a happy memory, but it's also sad because she is no longer with us. And we figured all this out as fourth, fifth, and sixth graders, and now as juniors and seniors in high school, okay? We figured all this out. Again, I knew nothing about Marc Chagall, and here I was teaching to a group of students that his wife died, and I had no idea. I was like, this better be right because I might be totally wrong. So after I taught my lesson, I immediately looked up Marc Chagall. And what did I learn when I looked up Marc Chagall? Well, I learned that he was born in 1887. I learned that he met his wife, Bella Rosenfeld, in 1908. They were married a little while later in 1915, and she died in 1944. Marc Chagall painted this painting called The Tree of Life a few years later in 1948. So good job. Look what we learned. Look what we learned just from analyzing art. Look what we learned about the artist just from analyzing their art, okay? There's a reason why Freestyle Academy is called Freestyle Academy School of Communication, Art, and Technology. It's not just art and technology. It's communication, art, and technology, because great artists are great communicators. I always say great filmmakers are great manipulators, but it's another way of saying the exact same thing, right? Great artists are great communicators. That's why we art, right? That's why we art, is to express ourselves, is to communicate, is to reach other people in a way that words can't, right? to tap into each other's emotions, to have a shared experience. That's why we like film. It's a shared experience, right? So we learn something about the artist just from one image of their work is super cool. Guys, you're filmmakers. You've got one image over and over and over again. You've got 24 images for every second of your art. If Marc Chagall can teach us so much about himself in just one frame, think about what you can do with 24 frames for every second. That's cool. That's powerful. Okay. Here's some other images that Marc Chagall created. He loved his wife. He loved his wife. After she passed away, he painted her obsessively up in the middle of the night. He absolutely adored her. When I read how he speaks about his wife, I say to myself, wow, that's the kind of relationship that I want to have someday, because like he was crazy in love with her. Super, super cool. Listen to this quote that he talks, he says, reflecting on the first time he saw her, on the first time he met her. He said, "Her silence is mine, her eyes mine. I feel she has known me always. My childhood, my present life, my future, as if she were watching over me, divining my innermost being. Though this is the first time I have seen her, I knew this is she, my wife." Isn't that cool? Isn't that super sweet? So these are two little paintings that he did about their wedding day. This is before she passed away. So both done in 1918. And this is the two of them getting married. And you can kind of see, I think, the kind of relationship they had, which is like playful and fun, and just there's some humor in there. And after she passed away, he painted a lot. And he painted a lot of her over and over and over again. He did eventually remarry, and he ended up moving to the States. I think he passed away in Chicago eventually. I might be getting that wrong. You can look it up yourself. So he did have a happy long life, but he definitely had this period of time where he painted a whole lot of his wife.
Could you imagine marrying someone that obsessively paints their ex-wife?
You know, I think she probably knew it going in, because
No complaints then, huh?
he was painting a lot, but when she met him, and they had a very happy marriage too. So there wasn't any discord as far as I know in my research of Marc Chagall. So this is another way of doing what I've told you to do since you were juniors, which is to tell your stories visually, to show and not tell, right? Show, don't tell. We've said this before, but this is an example of how it can be effective. Show, don't tell. So here's a Norman Rockwell painting. Norman Rockwell was a master at showing stories and not telling stories, all in one frame. Okay, somebody tell me this story. Who have I not heard from? Let's see. Arjun, tell me this story.
So the kid is a baseball player.
Okay.
He's going to, maybe he's like, he has to get glasses, but he really doesn't want to, because like his eyesight is just like bad.
Yep.
And
Okay.
he's mad at the guy.
And he's mad at the guy. Anyone else want to add anything to that, or any observations? Any other fun moments in your story that you visualize when you see this? I really like these characters. That's kind of what I look at the most. First of all, he's a Dodgers fan, so you know he's off to a bad start to begin with. But I love, I love this eye doctor here, who seems completely oblivious to the fact that this kid hates his guts, right? And I just love that. Like, look how oblivious he is. And here's this kid who's just, glasses are not cool, and I'm not gonna wear glasses, right? And look, he's all defiant, and he's got the straight arms and all this kind of stuff. And then here's this doctor who's like very daintily like placing the glasses on the boy. And I could just see him saying this line of dialogue where he's like, and now you're going to look just like me, you know? And he's like super excited about it. And this kid's like, like just raging on the inside, and this eye doctor is like totally oblivious to it, which I just love. How about this one? Here's a fun story. How about this one? Emily, what do you think?
From first interpretation, maybe like the girl got into a fight or maybe initiated a fight, because I see the mom in the back possibly talking to the principal.
Okay.
And the girl doesn't seem too sad about what just happened. Like, she looks like if she went into a fight, it went in her favor, or she initiated it and she doesn't look too bad about it.
Right. Anyone else have anything they want to add?
She just won that fight so hard.
She won that fight.
She
so
won.
hard.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about Norman Rockwell paintings are his characters. If you look at his characters, there's a lot of meaning that you can derive in the personalities of his characters, but also a lot of the clues, as Emily pointed out. You know, she's got a black eye. She's very disheveled. There's little details going on. This is why I like Norman Rockwell paintings as an example for this kind of thing, is because you look in the background and there are clues, secret messages. Got to be like a spy. Like, there's secret messages hidden in the art. So we've got the principal here. We know it's the principal because it says so on the door. And here he is at the desk. And I love the look on his face. He's like a deer in headlights. He doesn't know what to do. He's used to the boys scrapping. He knows how to handle the boys. But now he's got Tomboy over here. And he doesn't know how to handle her. And I love the look on his face, because he's like, he's just at a loss. Like, not only has she won the fight that she was in, but she's also stumped the principal, which I just love. I think that's so cool, right? Like, this principal doesn't know what to do. And I'm not sure if this is the mother or if this is like the school secretary. I kind of feel like it's the school secretary, because I feel like if it was the mother, I feel like the mother would be sitting down. I feel like this is maybe the teacher or the yard duty, or like the secretary who maybe like caught the girl fighting and brought her into the principal's office, and she's like just now telling him what's going on, and he's like, I don't know what to do about this. That's kind of how I interpret it. Just the way that this woman is standing with her hand on the desk, you know, kind of leaning over it, makes it feel like she's really comfortable in that office, like she works there a lot, or she's, you know, in there a lot. I don't see a parent doing that so much. And then I just love this girl, this huge smile on her face, all the disheveled hair. Is this the first time this girl's been in a fight? No. She's got Band-Aids on, you know, like she is totally used to kicking the crap out of these boys. And it's awesome. Super, super cool. Great story. How about this one? You guys know this story, or if you don't, you should. Right? Powerful image. Just in one frame. You want to give us the history for anyone who doesn't know?
Sure. I don't remember her name, but she was a little girl who was taken onto into a white school when they were trying to desegregate, so she could learn there. And there were like riots about it, and people were super mad, so they were crowding around the school, and she had to be escorted by these guys.
Very good. Norman Rockwell, in his later years, was very passionate about this particular issue. He painted this painting and others like it for a few years. There's a few things that we can learn by looking at some of the details, by looking at the secret messages in this particular piece. So we've got the armbands on here, the deputy U.S. Marshals. So we know that she's being escorted. We see that there's like tomatoes being thrown, very recently being thrown, so we can infer that like it's happening as she's walking. We know she's headed to school, right? She's got all this kind of stuff on, you know, her ruler and her notebook and all that kind of stuff. If you look very carefully, you can see some graffiti on the wall. Okay. Powerful image. Powerful image that tells some history. Go ahead.
She's dressed in like all white, and the
Good.
white is glowing, so she's kind of portrayed here as like an angel.
Yeah, kind of as a very noble, heroic, angelic kind of figure. And look at how she's standing. I think this is maybe one of the coolest parts of this painting. Look at how she's upright, straight, strong, right? And look at how the U.S. Marshals are walking. Like, she's kind of walking as if she's one of these authority figures. Like, she's one with these U.S. Marshals. And I think that's really cool. I think it's interesting how we don't show the faces of the U.S. Marshals because they're not really important in this particular story, are they? So a very, very powerful image. We used to do this kind of stuff in school. This is one that I made when I was a 3D modeling animation student back in the day. If there were time, I would have you analyze me, but sadly there's not. So you're just going to have to, I'm just going to have to remain a mystery to you. But you can, and if you feel like going through my slides later and analyzing me on a deep level, send me an email, let me know what you come up with. But that's one of my final pieces that I did as a young animation student. I was not particularly good at 3D modeling, but there you go. That's my very best effort from many years ago. There's a lot of different ways that you can show and not tell in your filmmaking, because we're all going to bring this back to filmmaking. This is all about making great films and communicating effectively and putting these types of secret messages into your own film work. And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. Now, you can do this with the details of the story itself, like what content is actually in the story. You can do it with color. You can do it with your use of light and shadow. And you can do it with layout and composition. Okay, and you can do it with blocking. We're going to talk about each and every one of these things today as we learn these advanced cinematic techniques to show and not tell. Or if I was talking to my 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, ways that you can hide secret messages into your films for your audiences to find and connect with. As far as the details in the story portion goes, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is just a quick slide. We've already hashed this over a lot in our 3 lessons on story structure as we got into screenwriting and we discussed dialogue and so on and so forth. But basically, what you show literally on your screen can help people understand meaning, right? So for example, this is Hitchcock. If you think back to when you were a junior, this is Hitchcock with his key, right? Remember the woman who steals the key from her husband and then she hands it to Cary Grant. And there's a close-up of the key as she hands it to Cary Grant, right? Because Hitchcock understands that the audience needs to be able to see it. If we did it in a wide shot, we might miss it. So he gives us a close-up of the key being passed, right? Because that's important. It's literal meaning. So things like that in your film, as you line your script, don't forget to do that Hitchcock type stuff. Don't forget to show things that are important, the literal meanings. Don't forget to do that. Those are your inserts, right? Your inserts as you line your script. Don't forget about those inserts. But we also can show the details of our story by creating the proper feeling and emotion. Maybe this is by your choice of dialogue. Maybe this is by the way you present sound or music into your film, right? There are ways to influence the feeling and emotion as you put little details or put little elements of your story. Maybe if you have if you're trying to foreshadow something, maybe there are little clues that you put. Maybe there are specific paintings or posters on the wall that we don't realize are important, but end up being important later. For example, if you watch the very opening shot of Back to the Future, for example, Robert Zemeckis does this really long, beautiful panning shot that takes us through news clippings on the wall, shows us important photographs from the doctor's life. It turns on the TV and we see a news report about missing plutonium, all this stuff that we don't really understand, but then we will understand later as the story progresses. These are little details that you can hide in your story to help kind of pique the interest of your audience and also create feeling and emotion. And then finally, you have like symbolism. This is the metaphorical stuff. This is the opposite of the literal stuff, right? This is where something means something later on. This is like Hitchcock and his wine bottles from the party scene. Remember that? Where the wine bottles were running out and we knew that when the wine bottles run out, then that was going to be in trouble, that Cary Grant was going to get caught. Right. And so it was it was symbolic for the passage of time. Right. This is you can do this in other ways where something means something later on. Yeah. Right. You have a comment?
So would Hitchcock's bomb in the room be a mix of all 3, or would that just be more of a feeling or a symbolism? I'm a little confused with that.
His bottles?
No, the bomb in the room. You remember the
bomb in the room.
Would that be a mix?
That would be literal because you're showing the audience the bomb under the table. Okay. So that's showing the audience what's important. So that would be the literal meaning. That would be a literal interpretation. When we're talking about symbolism, we're talking about metaphorical stuff. This is like your experimental film. This is where you're trapped in Niki's box, right? Teresa's trapped in Niki's box, but the box isn't really a box. The box actually represents something else, right? It's metaphorical. It's symbolic.
Society.
Exactly. Like it's something greater. There's a different meaning there. And you can do this in your narrative films. Okay, so let's keep going on to the more visual elements that we really want to talk about today. The first one I want to talk about is color. I'm going to try to move quicker. So one of the things that you can do is just the literal meanings of color, like color theory. When I pulled out Marc Chagall's painting, I was doing it because I wanted to teach color. We ended up discovering a lot more other cool stuff instead. But the color rules still apply. Like there are specific colors that actually mean things. Purple, for example, has been associated with royalty for centuries because it was so hard to get back in the day, right? Red is often associated with war, right? Because of the warlike colors of blood, right? So you can take literal meanings of color and apply that into your film if you want to establish that one color means something, or a character wearing a certain color, it means something or represents something. But you can also do it with the color temperature. You guys pointed this out in Chagall's painting. I think it was Aksher that pointed out that the bride was blue. And so that was depressing for some reason. Well, why is the blue depressing? Well, blue's not always depressing, but in that context, it was, right? Blue is a cold color, right? And we oftentimes associate blue with cold or sadness or depressing. I'm feeling blue, right? Whereas the warmer colors, orange and yellow and red, are more fiery, more warm, right? So you can use color to convey a certain feeling or emotion. Part of this is just because of our technology that's evolved over time. Our light bulbs, when light bulbs were invented, our incandescent light bulbs burned warmer on the color spectrum. So when you left outside and came inside into the warm, you had a more yellow color. If you were burning a fire to keep warm, you had more of a yellow or orange color, right? So we associate that feeling with warmth and comfort. This is why when you use your Instagram filters, a lot of you make the color warmer than what it was. Why do you do that? Well, it just looks nicer. I don't know. It looks happier. It looks more inviting. Yes, because it's warmer, and we've come to associate that with a feeling of comfort and warmth. So you can do that in your film. Okay. And of course, symbolism can be used as well when you're making color. A really good example of this is Schindler's List. So if you've seen Schindler's List by Spielberg, it's an amazing, 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 amazing film. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's maybe Spielberg's best. It's a hard film to watch. You're going to get emotional. You're going to cry. It's about the Holocaust. But it's a phenomenal, phenomenal film. And the whole film is black and white, except for one instance of color. And it pops up once, and then it pops up later. So when it pops up later, you understand what that color actually represents. So even though what you're looking at is one thing, you realize it actually means something else because of the symbolic nature that was applied to it earlier in the film. So you can do that in your films as well. You can apply certain symbolic meanings to color in Act 1 and when you're establishing the rules of your world, and then they can mean something later on when the audience recognizes that color again. This is the reason why if you watch a show, a medical show, or a show about doctors, or a movie in a hospital, you'll see a lot of these same color hues. This is why if you actually go into a hospital, you'll see a lot of these same color hues. You'll see blue, and you'll see white, and you might see some light grays. Well, why would you see those colors? Well, because when you go into a hospital, you often see the color white because white is clean. White is sterile, and they want you to know that it's clean. And you'll also see a lot of blues, a lot of calming colors, because when you're in a hospital, you might get some bad news from time to time, and they want you to remain calm. And they want to relax you, because sometimes going to the doctor can be anxiety inducing, right? So they often use these colors in hospitals to make it feel more calming and relaxing. And if you watch a show about doctors, you're going to see these colors pop up. This is the same reason why if you watch a funny show, a comedy show, like Community, which I love. You should watch Community if you haven't seen Community. If they ever made a show about freestyle, it would look a lot like Community. So here's a great, look at these characters. Just by looking at this image alone, we can look at this image alone and say, this is a show. It's bright and happy. It's cheerful. And it's a show about a wide cast of characters that are each different and unique and funny in their own way. Because we see all these bright colors and they're all very different, and no two people are wearing the same colors really. Like it's an eclectic bunch, and yet they all come together as one. And that's what the show's about. It's about this crazy group of people, and they all come together as one. It's funny and it's great, and you should watch it. If anyone needs it, I can share it with you. Okay. All right, we're gonna watch a clip from Aladdin. Good old Aladdin. I'm gonna pull this up here on my other screen because it was giving me a problem earlier. So we're going to watch a clip from Aladdin, and I'm going to stop and start this and pause it and talk about it a little bit. And as we watch this clip, I want you to pay attention to the colors that are being used in this particular clip. Can you guys hear that? Okay, solid. Okay, so we got the little castle. That's nice. All right, so here's Aladdin. He's all excited. He's stealing food and having a great old time. He's singing about it.
Only what I can afford.
Jump
Ahead of the law, man. That's all. That's no joke. These guys don't appreciate our
Okay, wonderful. Great old time. Everything's happy. Everything's wonderful. What colors do you see in this scene?
Orange.
Yeah, a lot of orange. That's kind of the color palette for this particular scene. And you'll notice this. Pay attention to this when you watch TV shows or movies. Every scene will have a color palette, its own color palette. And so when you see those scenes again, when you go to those places again, you recognize those colors, and it helps you understand where you are quicker. It's kind of cool. This is like a whole job. Like somebody's job, a set decorator or something like that, is to be consistent with their color palettes in these different places. All right, so here's Aladdin stealing food, having a great old time. Oh my gosh, it's a little off topic, but what's happening?
Now the colors are a little darker. And
What's happening?
orange.
It's a save the cat moment.
He's a save the cat moment. He's saving the cat. Oh, look at they're so, oh, I love Aladdin. He's such a good guy. I don't care that he totally just robbed that business of their property. That's great. He's giving that food away to these children. He's such a good guy. Save the cat. All right, wonderful. All right, I'm going to skip ahead. So, all right, here we go. Here is Aladdin.
So, do we have a deal?
Here he is in prison. And what colors do we see here in prison?
So why would you share all this wonderful treasure with me?
You see a lot of blue, right? And then he sees this old man here.
One problem. It's out there. We're in here. Things aren't always what they seem.
This is interesting. What color do you see?
Like reddish pink.
Interesting. Let's keep that in mind and let us continue. All right, we come to the Cave of Wonders. Here's the Cave of Wonders. Proceed. Touch nothing but the lamp. All right, we're gonna go inside, and wow, that's a lot of gold. So we have a real color palette here. So that's great. A whole lot of color. And oh, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't do it, monkey. Don't be bad monkey. All right, we get to meet the carpet. Carpet's cool. All right, so here's Aladdin, and he's going to come into this little dungeon-y area. He's going to do his best Indiana Jones imitation. Oh, what do we see here? Nice big red jewel. That's nice.
Wait, would red represent curiosity? Because, like, every time you see red, they're going towards it.
I don't know. Let's keep watching. Let's keep watching and find out. Boy, that's enticing. Just a lovely red ruby. All right, so here's Aladdin. He's going to march up his stairs. He's going to do his thing. Some nice cross-cutting here. If you remember back to our cross-cutting lesson, back to when we were here. All right, Aladdin's going to pull on Indiana Jones. He's going to pick up the lamp. This is really cool.
We came all the way down here to...
Okay, here comes Apu. And he's got to touch the big red ruby. Should Apu touch the big red ruby? Probably not. Probably not. Okay, watch this. This is really cool. Watch this. Pay close attention. If you're someone who's not paying attention to your screen, look at your screen for this moment, okay? I know you know this movie, but watch this. Watch this. Watch the color change. Are you ready? Pay close attention. Here we go. Wait for it.
The forbidden treasure. Now you will never again
See it? You see it? You see it? Wait for it. Boom! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Everything is red. This is bad. This can only be bad because I have just learned from watching this scene that blue is nice and safe and red is dangerous. And I actually learned this from the art director of this movie. I got the opportunity when I was an animation student way back when to attend a conference where an art director spoke. And she talked about her experiences working for Disney and working for Pixar and working with John Lasseter. And then just in passing, she was just like, oh yeah, it's kind of like in Aladdin when, you know, everything that was good was blue and everything that's bad was red. And I was sitting there as a young college student. And I was like, wait, what? Like, how did I miss that? Like, how, that's so obvious. How did I totally miss that? The genie is blue, Jafar is red. Like, how did I totally miss that? And so I went back and watched Aladdin, and it's so painfully obvious, but you don't notice it really, like, because you're paying attention to the story. You're engaged in the story. You're engrossed in the film. You don't notice these amazing, cool little pieces of art that these filmmakers put in there as secret messages. So now everything that was all blue is now all of a sudden red. And as Aladdin's trying to escape here, we can actually see him strive to go towards the blue. So if you watch, he'll kind of go through these red areas of lava or whatever. And he's going to save the monkey. Yeah, save the monkey already. Hurry up. I got other stuff to get to. Come on, Aladdin, pick up the pace, buddy. All right, here we go. He's going to save the monkey. Then watch as he kind of goes towards the blue. Watch. He's going to lava, 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 lava. There. Do you see it? Do you see the blue? It's like over here, like it's safety. It means safety. So we've now associated these colors throughout the film. And this remains consistent throughout the whole movie. So you look at this as he's trying to get away out of the Cave of Wonders, right? Like it's throughout the whole film. We meet the genie and our genie friend is nice and blue. We know that we can trust him. If we go towards the end of the film where Jafar is in complete control, it's the reddest of red. Right? He dresses Jasmine in red. He's wearing even more red than he was before. He's like this all-powerful, evil bad guy. And this whole scene is super, super red because it's the worst moment. It's the abyss moment for Aladdin. So here the filmmakers have used color to help create meaning and to show and not tell in their film. Super cool. And you can do the same thing with your films. Even though it's not an animated, even though your films aren't animated films, you can do the same thing in your films by your set design, by your costumes. Okay, this is something you need to think about. How do you want your actors to dress? What colors do you want them to wear? Does it matter? It might not. It depends on your film. But you can use color as a means to help illustrate your story as your film progresses. This is stuff you have to take into consideration. You can do it with your lights. We haven't gotten into my lighting lesson yet. We're going to do that next semester. But you can actually use colored lights to help convey meaning. And of course, you can do this in color grading in your post-production. I taught you how to color grade and color correct last year. You can continue to do that to help illustrate a story, to make something feel warmer or colder, or to color grade it a certain color. Okay, these are tools that you can use to help illustrate a story. The next thing that we're going to discuss is our use of light and shadow. And just like with color, we can use light and shadow to derive meaning or to create feeling and emotion or to create symbolism in your film, all right, to show and not tell. So for example, if you look at a film like this, we know right away this feels like a warm, romantic type of film. And it feels that way because of the soft lighting. Soft lighting makes people look more attractive. And so it feels like we're falling in love. It's very romanticized. Look how warm it is. It's sunset. It's golden hour. There's a reason why everyone looks better in golden hour, right? You get that nice warm hue, and then it creates a nice soft light, and it puts that light at eye level, right? And so we get this nice romanticized look, okay? Here's a film that you're probably familiar with from Princess Bride, right? You can look at this film, and just this shot alone, you can look at it and say to yourself, wow, look at the light hitting this couple. We can derive meaning from that. This couple is special. This couple, it's almost like a heavenly light. This couple is chosen. like rays from heaven swarming down on them, embarking them, shaping around them, circling about their love. There's something special about this couple. Their love, they're united. Their love is special. Their love will endure. And if you watch the film, we know that to be the case. Right? So you can use light in these ways to convey meaning. It's the same reason why if you watch a cop show or a mystery show, you always get the same type of hard lighting. Faces that are half shadow and half light. Well, why do they do that? Because it's a mystery. Because you're uncovering something. There's something that we don't know. There's a mystery there. It's shrouded in darkness. Maybe a character is mysterious. Maybe they're two-faced. Maybe we don't know if we can trust them. Right? There's no police office building in the world that is as poorly lit as every cop show on television. You watch any cop show on television, it's like super dark in there. And I always laugh when I watch it because I'm like, how can anyone get any work done? Like, you can't see anything, right? But they all light it that way because it gives that feeling of mystery. It gives that feeling of discovery. It gives that feeling of I'm not really sure who to trust, right? So you can use that as an element in your film to support your story. So I'm going to show you another example here. This is from a film called The Natural. It stars Robert Redford. It's a baseball movie, but it's a great movie. Even if you don't like baseball, I highly recommend it. And this film is... There we go. Got it. Okay. So this movie is held up as an example of really excellent lighting. It's if you polled a bunch of like lighting technicians, they would look at it and they would say, oh, this film is a really, really good example of lighting. So I'm going to pull it up here. Okay, so this is a scene from The Natural, and you can see how they use light and shadow to convey meaning in the story. Kind of like how they did in Aladdin with red and blue.
Hey, Roy. Yeah, Roy, you want to come in here a minute? What's up?
That's the judge.
The judge? Yeah, he wants to see you. Maybe I should go with you. No, I can handle it.
So Robert Redford plays the part of a baseball player who's been very successful on this really horrible team, and it's turned around the fortunes of the team.
Yes, Mr. Hobbs, the judge is expecting.
He's going to go see the judge, and the judge is the owner of the team, who we discover wants the team to do badly because he wants to. I don't know why. I can't remember why he wants the team to do badly.
Come in.
He doesn't want to pay him, I think.
We meet at 11.
This is a swell office.
Mere creature comforts.
So right away, what can we assume just by looking at this character in this scene, the way he's presented in this scene?
Yeah, the judge is definitely evil.
Definitely evil.
He's just completely like, he's like one step away from doing like the James Bond chair swivel and be like, I was
right, totally, right.
He's like shrouded in shadows in this like brown suit that's just blending in with the background in this massive chair. Like,
yes, I mean you could barely see his face. We can't really see him, and the scene actually is written this way. Listen to the dialogue as the scene progresses.
Could use a little more light, though.
Where you from, Hobbs?
All around, really. What about you?
Please pardon the absence of light. You see, as a youngster, I was frightened of the dark, and I used to wake up sobbing in it as if it was water, and I was drowning in it. But as you will observe, I have so thoroughly disciplined myself against that fear that now I much prefer a dark room.
The only thing I know about the dark is you can't see in it.
A pure canard.
What's a canard?
A prevarication.
What does that mean?
A lie. You can see, you know.
Well, Not good enough.
You see me, don't you?
Maybe I do, maybe I don't.
The scene progresses, and I wish I had more time to show you the whole scene. If you'd like to check out the whole scene, you could watch it in my slides that I share with you later today. Or you can watch the longer version of this lesson that's already up on my YouTube channel that I filmed last year. But this film is beautifully lit all the way around. They do a really good job of using light as an element of the story to kind of help support the story that's being told, which is really, really cool. Now, this is just a quick little preview of kind of what's to come as far as how to do lighting, because I haven't taught you anything about lighting yet, but we will. We'll get there next semester. But there are different techniques of lighting, and these are all different techniques that can really affect how your scene feels, how your movie feels, and have different meanings associated with them. So you can use these different techniques to convey meaning to help support the story that you're trying to tell. And we'll talk all about these techniques and what they all mean when we get into the lighting lesson next semester, because you're going to get to do it. You're going to get to try it out. You're going to get to play around with your own lighting equipment and make this type of stuff happen for your own films. Which brings us to layout and composition. Now, this one you know a little bit about, but maybe you've never thought about it in this way before. You all know the rule of thirds, for example. We talked about this during your documentary unit when we were doing interviews. You've heard about it in Mr. Flo's class, as well as elsewhere probably. But there's actually more to it than just the rule of thirds, all right? Laying out and getting proper composition for your frame is oftentimes just about making it look good, right? Like making it aesthetically pleasing. But sometimes maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want something else to help support the story that's being told in that given moment. And you can still get the feeling and the meaning and the symbolism, the same sort of stuff that we're trying to accomplish with the other things that we talked about, you can do with layout and composition. So for example, here's a frame from a movie called Redbeard. This is a Kurosawa film. And Kurosawa was really good at this. His films had a lot of compositional elements that would support the story that's being told. If I just showed you this one frame, what could you infer about this scene or about these characters in just this one frame?
There's a divide between them.
There's a divide between them. Very good. So, and that's exactly the case in this movie. In these two characters, not on the same page at this particular moment in this scene. And Kurosawa shows this, he illustrates this by literally dividing the frame between them. So it feels like there's a chasm between them. They are physically divided in the frame, just like they are figuratively divided in their frame of mind, in their thought. Okay? Here's another example from the same movie, right? We have another literal division that's separating these two characters. We also have a height difference. This character is kind of in charge, and he's tall, and he's standing up higher in the frame. And this character doesn't have the power and authority that this character has. So he's not as tall in the frame. And this woman has almost no power and authority in the context of this scene. And so she is lowest in the frame, right? And the way that they are standing and their height in the frame shows that these two people are on the same side. He's not on the same side, but he also has the more power and authority because he's overbearing them. See how that works? Here's another example of how you can use composition and layout to create a certain feeling. Kurosawa did this with his choice of lenses. He would use telephoto lenses at a distance with a really, really deep focus, which required a lot of light. And then that would compress the imagery so that it felt like these people were all on top of each other. And it creates this nice claustrophobic feeling as this character is in ill health. And Kurosawa was really known for that, making these use of long telephoto lenses with really deep focus, which is not something you see very often. That's how you get images like this. Normally, this building would be out of focus in the background. But instead, Kurosawa was able to get it fully in focus because of his choice of lens. And that was a conscious decision that he made to help support the story that's being told. So that's something that you can do with your films. Okay, we're going to watch a scene from Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm going to bring it up here. And we're going to watch through a scene because the animators do this very, very well throughout this particular this particular scene. All right, so here we are at the beginning of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And the scene that we're going to watch is this scene here at the beginning.
High in the dark bill, tale of a man and a monster. Dark was the night.
Okay, right away, what do you see at the start of this scene?
Very blue.
Okay, that's good. That's good. We're going to put color aside right now, and we're going to focus on the composition and layout elements. But it's cool that you observe that because you are correct.
They're kind of divided by the these bars.
Who is divided?
So you have Quasimodo's family, and then the guard who's kind of rowing them across.
Well, but it changes, right? So who's actually divided? Where is the separation?
Between us and the characters.
Between us and the characters. Okay, so we've got these pillars here. What does this remind you of?
Prison bars.
Prison bars. Disney's trying to tell you something right away in the way they introduce these characters. Who are these characters? They are people running from the law. Are they criminals? Maybe. But they are fearful of being imprisoned, right? In the very first shot, look at what Disney just told us in one shot as they introduce these characters.
Shut it up, will you? We'll be spotted! Hush, little one. 4 frightened gypsies slid silently under the docks near Notre Dame. 4 guilders for safe passage into Paris. A trap had been laid for the gypsies, and they gazed.
Okay, this is a cool shot. Here's our gypsies. Okay, do you see this arch? From a layout perspective, from a composition perspective, do you see how this traps them? Right? On a 2-dimensional space, there's nowhere for them to go. Now, in a 3-dimensional world, obviously they can run backwards, they can run forwards, but that's not the point. Visually, it feels like they are trapped because this arch, even though it's in the background, this arch traps them on the page, so to speak. It traps them in the frame. We're going to see more of this as the scene progresses.
Up in fear and alarm at a figure whose clutches were iron as much as the bell. Judge Claude Frollo, the bells of Notre Dame.
Nice Dutch tilt there. Nice Dutch tilt. We're looking up at him. As we look up at him, he seems more powerful because we are literally looking up at him, right? And we associate looking up with from when like we were children and we look up at our parents and they seem more powerful than us, right? So here's a character and we're looking up at him very largely. He's also got that Dutch tilt, which tells us he's a little bit off. He's a little bit off, right? And this is the first time we've seen this character. And look at what we just learned in one shot as the shot is introducing him.
Judge Claude Frollo,
We're looking down at the gypsies.
Purge the world of vice and sin. And he saw corruption.
Okay, look at this shot. Look at this shot. This is a cool one. We see that arch again, and they're trapped. Only now, not only are they trapped by this arch, but they're also trapped between Judge Frodo and his big, giant, freakishly frightening horse. Right? So visually, there's nowhere for them to go. This is layout to show that they are trapped. Are things going to go well for these gypsies? Not so much. Not so much.
Everywhere except within.
Bring these gypsy vermin to the Palace of Justice.
You there! What are you hiding?
Stolen goods, no doubt. Take them from her.
She ran.
Scary horse. Okay, this is really cool. Check this out. Okay, what do you see? You tell me now this time.
The bars have kind of shrunken. I think it's because we're getting more attached to the character. They're not as like.
Sorry, the what have shrunken?
So like kind of like the bars, like the pillars before, but they've actually shrunken this time, so we can see more of the characters now as our attachment for them kind of grows.
Okay.
I wanted to say they're just like trying to run away from run away from the prison of the like frame, and that's why the bars are not now more small because it looks like they have a chance of getting out.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? What do these bars kind of look like?
Candles.
Big fence.
Sorry? Akand, what'd you say?
Candles.
A what?
I'm seeing weird things with candles today, I guess.
Oh, candles.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see the candles, but okay. Anyone else?
Spikes.
Sorry, Max, go ahead.
Spikes.
Spikes. Do you see how the artists, they put snow on top of this and they pointed each one? They didn't have to do that. They pointed each one of these. These look like spikes. These look like spears. And as we're tracking this shot as she's running, we're following, the camera's following her. So she's remaining layout-wise, layout and composition-wise, she's not going anywhere. She's staying in the middle of the frame. So instead, all these fence posts, these spikes, these spears are all racing past her. Visually, they're running across her over and over and over and over again, as if these arrows are continuing to hit her. Watch as it happens. You see that? Over and over and over again. We see the same thing in this shot, only now we get the best of both worlds, both of these elements. Now, she's tiny and small. Judge Frodo is freakishly huge. She's trapped in this little space visually. And now we're getting these big, giant pillars, these beams, these wooden beams that are going to hit her head over and over and over again. They're just going to pound down onto her. Okay, are things going to end well for this woman? No. Disney's giving you a heads up, guys. Disney's letting every parent in the audience know what is about to happen. Okay? They're doing it visually. You know it's going to happen because you're in film mode. You know it's going to happen because you can feel it. You can see it. You can sense it. Look at these pillars hitting her over and over. Bam, 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 bam. Freakishly huge for her.
Monster.
Stop! Cried the arch.
Okay, this is another really cool section of this scene. So now we've got this bishop who's going to show up, and the bishop is going to confront Judge Frodo. He's going to take him on. Okay, watch the visual power struggle visually between these two characters. You ready? Pay close attention or you'll miss it.
Deacon, this is an unholy demon. I'm sending it back to hell where it belongs.
See there the innocent blood you have spilled on the steps of Notre Dame.
I am guiltless. She ran, I pursued.
Okay, here's our bishop taking on Judge Frodo. Look how big he is. Look how big he is in the frame. Look how small Judge Frodo is. Oh, this is great. Maybe now, finally, someone can stand up to this guy. Watch this shot. Are you ready? Watch it.
Oh, you would add this child's blood to your guilt on the steps.
You see what they did? They just, in one shot, they allowed you, the audience, they didn't cut. They didn't change camera angles. They allowed the shot to progress, to show that here he is taking on the judge. But right away, we can see that the judge is still more powerful than this guy. He's way up high on his horse. This guy is down on his knees, down on the steps. He's way higher in the frame. Judge has got the power. This guy's not going to win this argument. We already know that. Visually, we know that this priest is not going to win the argument. But rest assured, because the scene's not over just yet.
Of Notre Dame.
My conscience is clear.
You can lie to yourself.
Looking down at the bishop.
You can claim that you haven't a qualm, but you never can run from nor hide what you've done from the eyes. The very eyes of Notre Dame. And for...
Okay, this is really cool. The bishop says, hey, you can't hide from Notre Dame, baby. Notre Dame is over there. And guess what? Notre Dame is now entering the competition. All right. Notre Dame is the new player in this fight. And watch what happens and how Disney introduces Notre Dame in this particular scene from a visual layout composition standpoint. You ready?
One time in his life.
A nice close up. We get a close up. We're looking. Look at this. Look at this. Look how small Judge Frodo is. I've never seen him so small. He's tiny. He's like little ants, right? And then look how big and giant this building is. And these characters, they're like imposing over him. We get that nice Kurosawa visual divide that's going on. We know that they're on opposite sides of the argument. Who's going to win this argument? Notre Dame, baby. It's not even close. It's not even close. In fact, Disney takes some liberties here. This is physically impossible, by the way. The laws of physics do not allow for this. But this building is like leaning over almost as if it's going to, at any moment, to crush him. Do you see how it's like? Do you see the gravity of it? Do you see how it's leaning over? It could just crush him at any moment. This is impossible, of course, because the building, we assume, is parallel with these stairs. So the building should be parallel with the stairs. But it's okay. It's animation. We take some liberties here. We're going to make it work to our advantage and show that this building is all powerful.
Frollo felt a twinge of fear for his.
And now we get this imposing statue, and we're putting it in the middle of the frame. You almost never see this in film, because usually when you put a character in the middle of the frame, it feels off. It doesn't look right, unless it's some sort of ultimate authority or someone who's very rigid in their organization, someone who's very detail-oriented. And now we are getting this Notre Dame statue who is obviously the authority in this scene. Much, much more powerful. Oh, and to top it off, it's holding a baby. So take that, Judge Frodo.
Immortal soul.
What must I do?
And now this is really cool. Now the bishop has stood, and now he's at the top of the stairs, and now the bishop and now Judge Frodo are both on the same level. They're the same height. Okay? Did either of them win the argument? No. Notre Dame won the argument. The bishop and Judge Frodo, however, are coming to some sort of compromise, an equal footing. And they're going to show that visually by putting the priest up on the steps and by putting Judge Frodo and keeping him on his horse. And now they're at the same level. They have the same level of authority because Notre Dame has settled the argument.
Care for the child and raise it as your own.
What? I'm to be saddled.
Yeah, they're talking at eye level to each other now. Pretty cool, right? Super, super cool. Now, Disney animators, of course, can do this because they can draw whatever they want. But this is the kind of thing that you can still do with your composition and layout. You can show a character struggling who's strapped. You can show a character who's large in the frame versus another one who's small in the frame, right? These are the kinds of things that you can do. So you can do it with your size and location, your choice of lens like Kurosawa did. You can use the rule of thirds or not. If you want to purposely break the rule of thirds and you know why you're doing it, it can be a really effective means of visually telling your story. How you use that space or lack of space in a frame can give a whole different feeling for your characters and for your audience who are observing those characters. And then finally, the blocking makes a huge difference. Your blocking, we talked just a little bit about this and how the judge and the priest moved around those stairs. The blocking makes a huge difference. And as a director, you need to be conscious about the blocking that you're going to have in your film. If you don't know what blocking is, it's basically determining where the actors will be and where they will go and where they will move to on set, as well as the camera placement and where the camera placement might live or might go. So for example, you probably don't want to have a triangle coverage is great, but you probably don't want to have all of your scenes be on tripods, triangle coverage the entire time. That's going to start to feel pretty boring after a while. That's going to start to feel pretty static. Are there any dynamics? Are there any changing in blocking? Are there any new things that we're discovering? A lot of filmmakers do this really well. Alfonso Cuarón, whom I love, does this really, really well. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, because I know a lot of my students like Harry Potter, go watch Harry Potter #3, because that's the amazing cinematography one, okay? Because that's Alfonso Cuarón. He's an Oscar-winning director. Watch the Harry Potter scene of Harry Potter 3, where they first tell Harry Potter about Sirius Black for the first time. And I think it's Ron's dad, and he's leading him through these hallways. And everyone else is like enjoying themselves in this kind of pub, and he's leading him further and further away from all of his friends. Watch the blocking, watch the layout and composition. It's a masterfully done shot. It's all one take. And it's really, really, really cool. And it uses blocking effectively to help illustrate the story and the feeling that's being told in that moment. This is the kind of thing that you can do in your films. I'm going to show an example here from the movie Citizen Kane, which we're going to watch Next week at some point, I will share it with you, and then we will discuss it. This is Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, what cinematographers often cite as the best cinematic movie of all time, the best cinematography of all time. So we're going to watch one particular scene of this movie and pay attention to the blocking, pay attention to the layout and composition as this scene progresses. And I know it's 2:20, and I apologize. We're going to go just a tiny bit over time, but I'm doing pretty good. This is the last thing that we're going to look at.
Be careful, Charles.
Mrs. Kane.
Pull your muffler around your neck, Charles.
Kane, I think we shall have to tell him now.
Yes. I'll sign those papers now, Mr. Thatcher.
You people seem to forget that I'm the boy's father.
It's going to be done exactly the way I've told Mr. Thatcher.
There ain't nothing wrong with Colorado. I don't see why we can't raise our own son just because we come into some money. If I want, I can go to court. A father has a right to. A boarder that beats his bill and leaves worthless stock behind. That property is just as much my property as anybody's, now that it's valuable. And if Fred Graves had any idea all this was going to happen, he'd have made out those certificates in both our names.
However, they were made out in Mrs. Kane's name.
He owed the money for the board to the both of us.
The bank's decision on all matters
I
concerning...
don't hold with signing my boy away to any bank as guardian.
I want you to
just
stop
because.
all this nonsense,
The bank's
Jim.
decision on all matters concerning his education, his places of residence, and similar subjects is to be
The
final.
idea of a bank being the guardian.
I want you to stop all this nonsense, Jim.
We will assume full management of the Colorado load, of which I repeat, Mrs. Kane, you are the sole owner.
Where do I sign, Mr. Thatcher?
Right here, Mrs. Kane.
Mary, I'm asking you for the last time. Anybody'd think I hadn't been a good
The
husband,
sum of
a father.
$50,000 a year is to be paid to you and Mr. Kane as long as you both live, and thereafter to the survivor.
Well, let's hope it's all for the best.
It is.
Okay, I am going to play this back again. I'm going to turn the sound down. Okay, so right off, we see this little boy who's out here throwing snowballs, and they dress him darkly so that he stands out on the snow, right? We want to be able to see him. That's important. So Orson Welles makes sure he's wearing dark clothes so he pops out. And very quickly, the camera moves back, and we see this family. Now, here's this woman. Now, she's clearly leading the way. She's largest in the frame. The camera follows her. She's the leader of this scene. She has the most power, as we can see already. This guy that follows her seems to have the second to most power. He sits down next to her. They look very similar. They're wearing similar wardrobes. Their hair is even kind of the same. And this guy over here is clearly not on the same page as them. He looks different. His hair is different. His wardrobe is different. He's more disheveled. All right. He's also not in agreement with them in context of the story. What are they fighting about?
Giving the kid up for adoption or something.
Yeah, they're fighting over their child. Right? And this is the coolest thing. Are you ready? Look at this. Look at this. In the context of the story, they're fighting figuratively over their child. But in the actual video, they are literally fighting over their child. Do you see it? Isn't that cool? How cool is that? This is film, guys. It's so cool, right? It's like, here's the kid in the window, tiny, 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 tiny kid. The kid has no control over his future. None whatsoever. And there he is standing in this little window while his parents are literally arguing over him. And he has no control over it. I think that's so well done. I guarantee they drew an X somewhere on the snow and said, kid, this is your spot. Don't move from this spot. We need you to stay in this spot so we can see you in the window the whole time, to show that this kid has no control over anything that's happening to him. And here they are fighting over him. The dad is going to make sort of one last push here as he tries to stick up for, like what he thinks should be done for his child. And here he is. He's going to make his little push here. Here he goes. Ready? So he stands it. He gets closer. He gets bigger in the frame. Is he going to succeed? Is he going to succeed? Well, then they say, oh, yeah, we're going to give you some money. And then he says, oh, well, I guess that's for the best then. And then the camera pulls away from him. He's lost the argument. He's not even a player in the frame anymore. Dad's going to go walk over to the window. We didn't see this part the first time. Watch this. He closes the window as if to protect his child from these other people. And mom goes right back over there and opens the window right back up again. And then look at this final shot here. There she is, all in control, huge, powerful woman in the frame. Dad is trapped in this little spot. He's got nowhere to go visually. And this guy's clearly on the same team as this woman because he's living in kind of her space over here. Isn't that cool? Orson Welles does this over and over and over again in Citizen Kane. We're going to watch it, and then we're going to talk about it, and we're going to identify a lot of these places where he did this type of thing in his blocking. So look for that email when it comes out to you. I'll share the movie with you so you can actually watch it, and you don't have to buy it or anything like that. And then I'll probably have you take notes because there's so many examples. I don't want you to miss them all. I want you to go into film mode and really look for it. And you'll start to notice some really cool stuff as you analyze the film. So when you're doing your own blocking, this is something you really have to practice. You can't just make it up on a whim. You got to look at the scene ahead of time. You got to look at your set ahead of time and think about how you want the camera to move to support your characters in the given moment that they're in, so that the audience can connect with them and understand what's happening in terms of the story, and you can visually support that story. So you need to practice it. You know, like if your characters are moving around, if the camera's moving around, you're gonna have to change the focus on your camera sometimes. Maybe you need to change it to autofocus. Maybe you need to change it to the face focus. Maybe you need to rack focus and do it yourself because the camera can't keep up. You have to practice it. It's gonna take some rehearsal, okay? And mark your spots. Mark your spots for your actors. A good actor will be able to hit their mark consistently without looking down and trying to find where that mark is. So to get some tape and mark it on the ground, and an actor will be able to see it in their peripheral vision and stop where you need them to stop, and then go to their next mark, and so on and so forth. And that way, you know, you can get the shot framed and composed exactly the way that you want it to be. If you liked the stuff that we talked about today, these advanced cinematic techniques, there are an awful lot of jobs that cover these responsibilities. These are just some of them. These are just some of the jobs that we talked about today. Obviously, a director and a cinematographer, those are things that we expect to be controlling a lot of these aspects, but a lot of other jobs are included in this process as well, from the storyboard artists to the set decorators, to the people in charge of lighting, to the people in charge of costumes and wardrobe, set designers. A lot of people are involved in this process of visually telling a story and visually supporting the story in a way that's more advanced than just pointing a camera at it and letting the actors act and talk the lines. There's more to it than that. That's what makes film so cool. That's what makes film so artistic. And that's what makes film so expressive. So what are you going to do in your film to make sure that you put secret messages of film into your own bits of work? How can you show and not tell in these more advanced cinematic ways? So be thinking about that over the next couple of weeks as you complete what's left of your pre-production package, as you line your scripts and as you prepare your shot lists. Be thinking about that. What can you do to visually support your story? What secret messages can you hide to help get your audience to feel what you want them to feel and to express what you want to express in any given moment? And that's a lot more powerful, and that's a lot more creative, and it really helps you communicate more effectively at a more deeper level. So do that. Get yourself into film mode and really start thinking about that. And as you watch every movie from here on out for the rest of your life, whether you're watching a television show or a movie or even a commercial or a music video, I want you to get into film mode. I want you to think about it, analyze it. Why is the camera where it is? Why are the characters moving the way that they are? What's the blocking of this particular scene? What are they trying to get me to feel? As you start to think more advanced about these cinematic techniques in the media that you watch, you can start applying it more advanced into your own work. And then that's what really makes a great filmmaker. That's what separates the great filmmakers from the competent ones, the ones who are very capable. It's this method of really expressing a deeper level of communication through your visual art form. That is my lesson for today. Thank you. You've been wonderful. I only kept you 9 minutes late. That's not too bad. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will be sending you instructions for how to watch Citizen Kane, so look for that. The next time we have class, we will be discussing Citizen Kane. I haven't decided when that class will be. It might be Tuesday, it might be Friday. Just check your email, check the slate that I post, and make sure you're aware of when our next class is going to be. The next time we meet, we'll be discussing Citizen Kane, and that's all we're gonna do. And then after that, we might not have class for a little bit because you're going to be working on your pre-production package, which is what's due for you at the end of the semester. Okay? Thank you, everyone. You've been great. Have a great weekend. I hope this lesson was fun for you. Again, it's my favorite, so it's fun for me.
Thank
See ya.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.